Commander Varric stood before the transparent containment cell, his four eyes narrowing as he observed the 7 human juveniles huddled inside. The species designation read Homo sapiens, a recently contacted civilization from a backwater planet called Earth. According to the Galactic Council's assessment, they were barely sentient enough to qualify for protection under the Juvenile Species Act. Predator species, Varric muttered to his second officer, gesturing toward the children with a clawed appendage. Look at their forward-facing eyes. Binocular vision. They evolved as hunters. The second officer chittered nervously. Sir, they're just cubs. The eldest is barely 12 solar cycles. Cubs of predators are still predators, Varric replied coldly. We found them aboard an unlicensed colony vessel in Sector 7. No adult supervision. No proper containment protocols. They'll remain here until the Council decides their fate. The children, ranging from 5 to 12 years old, watched the alien commander with expressions that Varric couldn't quite decipher. The smallest ones clung to the older ones, but none of them made the submissive gestures typical of captured juveniles. Instead, they stared back with an intensity that made Varric's scales prickle. One of them, a female with dark hair and fierce brown eyes, stepped forward. She was perhaps 10 cycles old, smaller than Varric's own offspring, yet she moved with a confidence that seemed inappropriate for a captive. My name is Lyra, she said in surprisingly clear galactic standard. You need to let us go. Varric's mandibles clicked in amusement. You are in no position to make demands, little predator. This facility is designed to hold creatures far more dangerous than human cubs. Then you don't know much about human cubs, Lyra replied. Over the next 3 days, Commander Varric began to understand what she meant. It started small. The containment cell's environmental controls malfunctioned, cycling between freezing and sweltering temperatures. Varric's technicians found nothing wrong with the systems, yet the problems persisted. Then the food dispensers began producing meals laced with compounds that triggered allergic reactions in the guard staff. Never life-threatening, but always inconvenient. How are they doing this? Varric demanded, staring at the security feeds. They have no tools, no access to the ship's systems. His second officer pointed at the screen. Sir, the eldest one. She's been teaching the others mathematics using scratches on the wall. So? Many species teach their young. Sir, those aren't just lessons. Look at the patterns. They're calculating structural stress points. Varric zoomed in on the wall markings. The primitive scratches formed complex equations that analyzed the containment cell's molecular structure. These children, these cubs, were reverse engineering their prison using nothing but observation and improvised tools. On the 4th day, Lyra requested an audience with Varric. What do you want, human? He asked, standing outside the containment field. I want you to understand something, Lyra said calmly. Humans don't stay caged. It's not in our nature. Our ancestors survived ice ages, plagues, and predators that could tear them apart. They crossed oceans on wooden boats and climbed mountains that touched the sky. We're the species that looked at the stars and said, we'll go there someday. Varric laughed, a harsh clicking sound. Inspiring words from a cub who cannot even reach the ceiling of her cell. I don't need to reach the ceiling, Lyra replied. I just need to understand how it works. That night, the alarm screamed. Varric rushed to the detention level, his weapon drawn, expecting to find guards injured or systems sabotaged. Instead, he found something far more terrifying. An empty cell. The containment field was still active. The doors were still sealed. The walls showed no signs of damage. Yet the 7 human children were gone. Impossible, Varric breathed. The security logs show no breach. Check the ventilation system. His second officer suggested weakly. The ventilation shafts were barely wide enough for a juvenile to squeeze through, and they were protected by energy grids designed to deliver incapacitating shocks to any organic matter. Varric's own engineers had assured him that nothing could pass through them alive. But when they checked the shafts, they found tiny handprints and a trail of improvised insulation made from torn clothing. The children had wrapped themselves in layers of fabric, grounded themselves using metal strips stolen from the food dispensers, and crawled through a network of passages that Varric's species considered impassable. The facility-wide search lasted 6 hours. When Varric finally found them, he almost didn't believe his eyes. The 7 children had reached the ship's cargo bay. They had broken into a supply locker, equipped themselves with emergency spacesuits sized for adults, and were attempting to hotwire an escape pod using tools they'd fashioned from salvaged components. Lyra looked up as Varek's security team surrounded them. She didn't look afraid. She looked annoyed at being interrupted. "You've made your point," Varek said quietly, lowering his weapon. "You are not ordinary juveniles." "We tried to tell you," Lyra replied. "Humans don't surrender. We don't accept cages. Even the youngest of us will fight for freedom." Varek studied the makeshift tools scattered around the children. Improvised circuit breakers, wire strippers created from bent meal trays, and a crude but functional computer interface built from scraps. They hadn't just escaped. They'd engineered their way out using primitive problem-solving and relentless determination. "Your ship was in violation of Council regulations," Varek said finally. "But perhaps I was wrong about your species. You are not merely predators. You are survivors. We're children," Lyra corrected, "and we just want to go home." Commander Varek made his report to the Galactic Council that evening. He recommended that humanity be reclassified from juvenile predator species under observation to species of concerning adaptability, approach with caution. More importantly, he recommended that the 7 human cubs be returned to their colony vessel immediately, along with a formal apology. "If these are their children," Varek wrote in his final assessment, "I have no desire to meet their soldiers." The cage had indeed shattered, not through brute force, but through the unstoppable human combination of curiosity, ingenuity, and an absolute refusal to accept imprisonment. Lyra and her companions had proven what humans would come to teach the galaxy over the following centuries. You could build walls around humanity, but you could never build them strong enough. Some species were born to rule. Others were born to follow. Humans were born to break free.